Hey there friends, it's Carrie with Any Day Blessings, and I have another side-by-side comparison for you. This video is not going to be a complete flip through. This is just going to be me highlighting the areas that I think are most important to consider when you're looking to place your child between these two guides. I'm going to also do a similar video between Beyond Little Hearts for His Glory and the next guide up, which is Bigger Hearts for His Glory, because I know that a lot of people have placement questions. There is a placement chart on the Heart of Dakota website, and I encourage you to go there and use that, but hopefully this will give you a visual representation that maybe can add to that chart in helping you place your child. I have two quick announcements before I open these up. One is actually related to Heart of Dakota and a sale, so I thought that would be really timely for this review. But the first announcement is just about the channel in general. I noticed the other day, I'm not a YouTube professional, I don't edit or fix up my videos in any way. I just give you the raw coverage, the raw footage. And so I'm not a professional, but I did notice a statistic the other day that 70% of the people that watch my videos are not subscribers. And so I thought I would just, mention that subscribing, it doesn't sign you up for anything. It doesn't put you on any kind of list. All it does is kind of act like a favorites button so that you can just go to your subscription menu and see all the things that you typically like, all the channels that you typically like watching, all in one place without having to search for it. So I just thought I'd mention that, and if you have not yet subscribed, I would appreciate it if you did that. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to announce was that Heart of Dakota is having a site-wide sale. They don't typically offer a wide discount like that on your entire purchase. Typically, it's just off of a certain pack of books, a certain set of read-alouds or something like that. But right now, through March 31st, there is a site-wide sale off the entire site at Heart of Dakota. So thought I'd mention that, and that's why I wanted to get this particular review up in case some of you were still kind of deciding between some guides, so you could have some confidence and then go take advantage of that sale. So I will try and get the Beyond and Bigger comparison up soon. It probably won't be till next week sometime, but I will try and get that up soon. Well, let's see, the sale ends the 31st, so that's Sunday, isn't it? Or is that Monday? Yeah, I'll try and get this up before the sale ends, but if you have questions about placement between Beyond and Bigger, just leave those down below in case I don't get to that video, okay? All right, so let's hop in here. What I'm going to do, the main areas of comparison, the main areas where I find placement would be particularly important would be in the language arts area, reading, phonics, handwriting, spelling, those sorts of things, and the history. I am going to briefly talk about comparisons between the rotating box, the science and art activities and things like that, and the read-alouds, but I found those areas to be pretty much the same between the guides. I will highlight some differences for you, but I'm going to mainly stick to comparing the history and science, or history and language arts between the guides, okay? So Little Hearts for His Glory is geared for ages 5 to 7. Beyond Little Hearts for 6 to 8. We use these right in the middle. We use this one at 6 and this one at 7. You can see the first week, the first entire week online. You can also see all of this intro material, so I'm not going to really show you that. Again, this is not going to be a flip through. This is going to be a comparison. So what I'm going to do is just open up to a day. Actually, I'll do that first. That's fine. I'm going to open this up. Now you will notice, can you see this? Beyond is much thicker. And that's because there's a ton of stuff in the appendix, and I will try and get to that as well, what's back there in the appendix, because that is also another thing to consider when you're placing your child. Okay, so let's talk about history first. So you see history up here, read about history. They both read out of books from Christian Liberty Press. Here is the one that goes with this guide, and here are the ones that go with this guide, okay? Now there's also another one. I used it online, and there's also a Bible that they recommend you get for this one. So these things are scheduled in this guide. These things are scheduled in that guide. I'm going to give you an idea of what a day's worth of reading would be in each one. So when they assign the history for Little Pilgrims, they will assign about the same amount of reading each time. It's typically about this much reading, 2 pages worth. Sometimes you'll go to finish a paragraph onto the next page like that. But this is your typical history reading in Little Hearts for His Glory, okay? Like a 2-page spread, maybe a tiny bit more. But you see the book is full of color, lots of cartoony type demonstrations, but plenty of real photographs as well. Okay, now you will see in here there are questions in this book and vocabulary words. Those are not assigned in the Little Hearts Guide. You can certainly use these as review if you want to have that, to have some discussion questions. There's no instruction given to have your child narrate. It's just read. Just read it. That's your history section, or your history assignment for the day. If the history book calls for a Bible reading, again, this is the Bible that it calls for, and this is like a Bible reading. So you read this page here up to there. So no more than 2 pages in the Bible reading. This would be your reading for the day if the Bible was the assigned book. Now sometimes, very few times, they will have you do a reading in both. But that's usually towards the end of the guide. They also, like I said, have a third book, but like I said, we use that online. It's free public domain online, so we used it online, and I just read off my iPhone on those days. Now, you will notice that there are no worksheets or anything like that to do. If your child needs to color or something while they're listening to a history reading, now they're very short, so they probably should be able to sit through that at 5. But if they can't, and they need to be active in doing something, on the Little Hearts for His Glory Facebook group on Facebook, some moms have put together some history printables, coloring pages, timeline cards, things that they can do while you're doing the reading. We printed off the timeline cards, and we have a timeline around the ceiling in our homeschool area from Little Hearts. It's still up. My son did a really good job on it, so we just left it up even this year, even though we were in Beyond. And we printed off those little timeline cards, and that's what he colored when he listened to this reading. Now, when we read out of the Bible, I did ask him to sit and listen. But when we read out of the history book, I did let him color. So that's one assignment in Little Hearts for His Glory. Now, when you get over to Beyond Little Hearts for His Glory, you will go between these 3 books. Typically, let's look at the assignment here. Stories of the Pilgrims, pages 6 to 12. There is a newer version of this available. I just got this at a homeschool sale for like $3, so that's why I have the older edition, but the content is the same. Oops. So this reads more like a chapter book, okay? This isn't something that your child is going to have, a lot of pictures to look at. It doesn't have that picture book feel. And this is much more reading. This is 1 day's reading that I'm showing you right here. Okay? That was 1 day's reading, all that. Show you again, 1 day's reading. So consider this if your child can sit through that lengthy of a reading. That's typical out of these 2 books here. This book here, when it assigns, this one does have a few color pictures in it, but they're as spread out as the other one. So see, it really reads more like a chapter book. The stories are usually about children, as it says, boys and girls of the colonial days. So they are engaging to the children, but they're just long, and they don't have a lot of pictures. So we actually stopped reading those partway through 2nd grade because my son just couldn't sit and listen to them. This here is another book that's scheduled. And a daily reading in this book would be this, okay, or this, okay. So a little less than these 2, and this typically does have more pictures and graphics and things like that for the children to look at. I don't know if that's important to you or not, but that is incredibly important in our home. We have to have pictures still. We're not quite there yet where we can't have pictures. They do have questions here and things to do, extra activities. These are not assigned in the guide. So there are other history activities, and I'll get to that in a minute, that are assigned in this guide, but this is an option for you if, for whatever reason, the activities that are assigned in the guide that I'll show you, if they don't work, you do have a few other options in this book. And we actually did take a few of the activities from this book and did them in lieu of the activities in the guide. So just wanted to point out that that was an option too. So that just gives you an idea of how much reading you're going to do. I'm going to hop down now to this box, the rotating box, because I want to show you, there is a history connection here, so just hang on. I want to show you what you do in this box. The way this box works is it rotates between different activities. So one day it's science, one day it's art, one day it is dramatic play, one day it's science again, and one day it's a thinking game. So you see there was no additional history activity listed in this guide. So that reading that you do up here, that's what you're doing for history. Sometimes the thinking game or the artistic expression will be a craft or a game related to this, but not always, okay? However, in this guide over here, I'll open it up, you do have a little bit more play with history. You do a little bit more with it. Okay, looking down here, you have artistic expression, science exploration, geography, that's new to this guide, typically related to your history reading, and history activity. This is either some sort of game or movement exercise or timeline activity. So we do have a little bit of writing there, creating a timeline. There is a template in the Facebook group for Beyond Little Hearts for His Glory, but there are instructions for you to create a timeline just on plain paper. Both guides advocate having your child work off of just plain paper and creating charts, creating notebooks, creating things, instead of using pre-printed worksheets. Those pre-printed worksheets are available in both of the corresponding Facebook groups for these guides if you would rather have that for your child, but the guide itself really only calls for a plain notebook. Okay, so there are some opportunities for the child to do some written activity in this guide with history. Here it's just reading, okay? While I'm on the rotating box, I want to go back here to geography, okay? Geography is covered once per unit, and if you're not familiar with the Heart of Dakota, I probably should have mentioned this at the beginning. Both Little Hearts for His Glory and Beyond Little Hearts for His Glory are set up on 5-day units. Those correspond in most homes to weeks, and there are 34 units. So if you do a 5-day homeschool week, then you would have 34 weeks of instruction. If you like to homeschool 4 days a week, which we did when we used Little Hearts for His Glory, what I did was I just doubled up on one extra box per day. So I would do 2 history boxes on Monday, I would do 2 rotating boxes on Tuesday, so forth. And that actually helped me get through 1 unit in 4 days. I didn't do that with this one. Okay, geography is, like I said, it's only offered in this one here, and they really encourage you to have your child use maps and globes and draw them. Like I said, there are pre-printed sheets that you can print, that you can have your child do the map exercises on. But if you go to the website and you hear the author's reason why she has the child draw them, it really is an interesting explanation. I would encourage you to do that. Okay, so that takes care of the first main area of comparison. I'm going to hit a couple of the quicker ones, and then we'll head over to language arts. So you saw that there was art, thinking games, and role play here. I think that's what it was called, role play, dramatic play. Okay, there's definitely more of that style of games playing in this guide than this one. It's not that they never do those things, but the rhymes in motion are all done with action. So it's not so much poetry, it's acting out little rhymes basically. And you jump up and down, you make a circle with your arms, you leap from here to there while you're saying the rhyme. So definitely much more activity. If you have a Wiggly Willy that's kind of between these two guides, this might be a better choice. The role play and the thinking games definitely are nice little things to interject in between all of the sitting still stuff. So that's something to consider, much more for your Wiggly Willy over here than in this one, but there still is an appropriate amount of hands-on and, you know, opportunities to get up and move around here, but definitely more over here. Okay, let's flip this over now. And science, let me just do science. Science was in that rotating box too. Both sciences from this guide are from Christian Liberty Press. This is the one that is recommended with this guide. They actually have two that are scheduled with this guide. There's an alternate schedule in the back, but I'm just going to tell you, I thought that both this one and the two other options that you had between the guides, I thought they were all the same. They really were. The only difference between the science used in this book and this one is health. This one covers health, this one doesn't. That's it. So that's just, you know, I really didn't see any difference. So this book is very bright and colorful. The readings are short. The print is markedly smaller in the book that goes with this one, so you would be reading more. This, I believe, is their kindergarten book at Christian Liberty Press, and this one uses the book that's geared for second grade. So just wanted to show you that real quickly. I don't see a huge difference between them, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. All right, let's get into language arts. So you see here in Little Hearts for His Glory, it's about phonics, and Beyond Little Hearts for His Glory, it's more about reading. They do give you the option to use a phonics program here, but this one is really geared more towards kiddos that don't know how to read yet, because this guide here starts providing instructions, or not instructions, reading comprehension and reading lists. So you don't have to use it. If you still need phonics, by all means, you can still use phonics. Use your own phonics program. But this guide here would probably be better for a host of reasons if you still have a beginning phonics learner. Let's move that over there for just a second. This is the recommended, or one of the recommended programs in Little Hearts for His Glory, the reading lesson. They also have Reading Made Easy as another option, but this is the one that they offer in their package. So I'm just going to show you inside here. I do notice that they don't actually schedule, okay, the lessons. So you would just go at your own pace through this, okay? If you've not used reading lessons before, this right here is a 3-lesson sample. Oh, looking at my little guy's handwriting. This is a 3-week sample that you can print off free from their website, okay? And as you can see, maybe I should go back here. There was some interaction with the kiddo, like using the crayon to draw matching lines and do circles and things like that. And then eventually they were writing, I believe, at some point in here I saw. So it kind of reminds me a little bit of First Start Reading from Memoria Press, but there aren't handwriting lines in this one. So this is their suggestion. It's something that you can choose to do or pick up your own reading, or your own phonics, that's fine. But this is the one that Heart of Dakota recommends. We only used the first 3 lessons, and then we took the trial, and then we did something else. Oh, I meant to bring up, I'm sorry guys, I meant to bring up some of the emerging readers so you could see inside them. I'm sorry, I forgot that. I think I might have done a video on the emerging readers. I think I did. So go back and see if you can find that. If I remember, I'll link it below. But this one here, this one has a list. That's why this is so long. It has a list in the back of books to read, and then these are like on day 3, 4, 5, some examples of comprehension questions that you can ask them. So they provide you a schedule, the books to read, and comprehension questions, all in the back of the book. They also provide an alternate list of emerging readers in case, for whatever reason, your child doesn't like that topic or your library doesn't have that book. So that's why the back of the book is so thick, because there's a lot back there. So that's really the differences between reading and phonics. This assumes that the child is still receiving phonics instruction, hasn't begun to be an independent reader. This is assuming that the child is either almost ready or is ready for the emerging reader set. Think like the Owl at Home, Frog and Toad books. That would be about where your child would be when they start this guide. The language arts box up here, fine motor skills, it's called in Little Hearts for His Glory. It's called language arts here. This guide does not have spelling. This guide does. You could certainly add your own spelling in, but you know, part of what's so appealing about Heart of Dakota is the all-in-one done for you. So that's why placement is so key. All right, so in your fine motor skills, did I bring, oh, I didn't bring that over either. See, I wanted to be more ready, but I had a hot minute to do this while my kids were playing, and with the sale, I really wanted to bring this over, but I think you guys know, if you don't mind me getting in my closet, I actually think it's in my closet up here. The fine motors box actually has your kids do some of the, yeah, there it is. Has your kids do some of these rod and staff books. So that's what's in this little fine motors box. Some of this cutting, coloring by number, tracing. So it's not hard. What this is meant to do, because this is like a preschool book, so you're thinking, why would that be in a kindergarten or first grade book? Well, the point of that is so that your child can develop that fine motor skill strength without having to worry so much like on the mental energy of the task at hand. So I thought that was a really neat way to explain it. I did do a video on handwriting for Little Hearts for His Glory that is on my channel, so I won't go too much into that. But they do a couple days of the do it carefully, finding the answers, whatever the books are. I don't think they have the thinking skills book anymore, so they just go back and forth. One day they do that little rod and staff book, and then one day they assign a reason for handwriting. We didn't do that. I just printed off handwriting sheets from the computer, but I did get the rod and staff books. So that is your language arts: handwriting, fine motor skills, and phonics. Your language arts over here in the Beyond guide is different. Let's go to day 1. It follows the same pattern, which I love. I love that it's the same thing every week. Day 1, you start with your spelling list. The lists are in the appendix. I'm not going to stay on these lists very long because this is a copyrighted thing back here. But I will just real briefly, I should have marked it. Sorry, oh, here. So they're back here, okay? And you have a different list for each week. Or, I'm sorry, you have 2 lists for each week. So if the first list is a little too basic for your child, you need to bump up a little bit in difficulty, you can use list 2. It gives an activity for what to do. For spelling, every day it uses things like index cards and notebook paper and things you have around your home. You don't need to have a separate program for spelling. It's all here. It gives you some ideas of what to do with them each day. Okay, more spelling. Using them in a sentence, things like that. Again, still working on spelling each day. And then it actually doesn't indicate a test. It doesn't say take a test on your word. It just, it does say have the students write each word and check it against the day 1 cards to look for any mistakes. So I guess you could say this is their test here, but they don't call it a test. Okay, so this is not all that's in here. They do still have handwriting. It's done with copywork, and it's the same poem that they're memorizing. All of those are back here in the appendix as well. That's why this is so thick back here, because all of this stuff is back there for language arts. Okay, so they'll copy the poem, and then on day 5, they'll do a grammar activity with no other handwriting, no spelling. Okay, so 4 days a week of spelling. I think 4 days a week of handwriting, and then 1 day a week of grammar. Okay, so that is the main difference between these two, is this language arts box here, the spelling and the grammar. There's no spelling or grammar in Little Hearts. The last 2 things I'll comment on are the Storytime box and the math box. I'm just looking for the cover here to close this. Okay, is the Storytime box and the math box. Math is meant to be interchangeable because they know that math is very particular, to the child's needs and learning style. So this box here, they do schedule an activity. This is your lesson, and here's your assignment. You don't need any other teacher's books, nothing. You just need the workbook and these little instructions. This is what I use as a lesson. Okay, and then my child does the assignment. But you can pull this out and not affect the rest of the program and do your own math. You can do that. Storytime, they're starting to bring in elements of the story, okay? So they're talking about the different genres, they're talking about character, they're talking about setting. No writing is involved, no lit analysis, nothing like that. It's all just sharing information. No narration is called for here in this guide either, okay? So that is something that's a little different in the story time in this one. The story time in this one, it's mainly just comprehension and character, okay? So they'll ask questions about what was read. Story time is the same as read alouds. So they'll ask questions about what was read, but and maybe have the child write, like in this exercise, write a brief answer to a question every now and again. But this one really doesn't get into like story elements or genres or anything like that. I will say that story time for both of these guides are chapter books, and many don't have pictures, so you can guess how those went for us. We made it through 3 weeks of story time in this guide. We made it through about the same with this guide, and then we headed to Memoria Press because we knew that worked, and my son loved it. So, excuse me, sorry. So I can't really compare story time really beyond that because it just was not good for us. So, but that is just my little comparison between these two. I hope it was helpful to you. If there are other things between the guides that you're wondering about placement, please leave a comment below. As you can hear, I have a little visitor at the door, so I'm going to wrap this up. Head to Heart of Dakota's website by March 31st, and you will get 10% off your entire purchase. All right? Have a good day.